What is this thing with a wooden handle and metal wrapped and riveted to the handle? Possibly could be missing a piece, but I'm not sure. My dad found it while cleaning some old stuff. It definitely seems old, and it could possibly be used to cut or mark something, maybe dig. It could also be used to hold a candle, similar to a torch, or for cutting dough, like for biscuits. Any idea what it is for? It's an antique can opener. You would simply push the blades into the can. Here's an example with a different handle. My grandmother had a few of these sitting around. She told me once that they were more common in the western states, but I've no way to verify this. The flat part is there so you can open the lid but keep it attached. What is this bulky old wooden thing with a 10mm thick iron square plate on one end? It looks like part of a large door handle and seems too bulky to be a handheld tool. I purchased it at a thrift shop in Switzerland. It has no markings, it looks old and handmade, and the wood is heavy. There is a plastic thread at the end that seems to have been added afterwards to be able to hang it, as a decoration maybe. I tried looking through old wooden tools on Google, but I couldn't find anything. Have any of you seen such a thing? It's an old-time door lifter. Here's an image of the modern version. The metal piece goes under the door, and the rounded part sits on the floor. Use your foot to push on the top, and it lifts the door into place. That's what my grandfather told me. He used to have one similar but not exact that he made himself. What is this thing that seems to be a burner of some sort? I found it in an antique mall in Pennsylvania, labeled ashtray. Inside there is a metal mesh with some sort of material under that. It's made of metal with a wooden handle and around 7.5 by 4 inches. The top slides open in both directions when you pull the wooden knob at the end of the handle. There are small vents all around the side, and an inscription underneath that reads, "Patented July 1st, 1902. What is it exactly? It's an alcohol-burning camp stove. They still make them. It was patented as spirit lamp on July 1st, 1902 by William J.D. Mast of Buffalo, New York, for the Buffalo Manufacturing Company. The flames will come out through those round holes, and your pot, or pan, sits on top. That thing on the top that opens and closes regulates the amount of air it takes in, increasing or decreasing the size of the flames. Start it with that window wide open, and then slowly slide it towards the closed position until you reach the desired result. What is this thing my father found in an old toolbox? It's a wooden handle with a very stiff metal ring that's similar to a key ring but without open ends. Printed on the wood is Fred Muench Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. Can anyone tell me anything about this item? It is a corkscrew from the early 1900s. If you put your finger in the hole and pull, or slowly rotate, the corkscrew should come out from the wooden sheath. It dates from a time when whiskey bottles as well as wine had corks. This item has no name or brand printed on it. It is made from wood and metal, and most likely from Dutch origins. The wooden handles do not move. Although the metal part seems sharp, it's blunt, but I don't know if that's because of age or intended, most likely very old. I have been trying to figure out what this thing is for the past 6 months now. Does anyone know the use of this item? It's a type of knife called a clogmaker's stock knife, used to carve clogs. On the right end you see a loop or hook. This end gets hooked into a hasp on the end of his bench. It acts as a pivot for the knife. The T-end is the handle. Unfortunately, there are only a very small number of clogmakers left from the many hundreds who traded in the late 1800s and early 1900s. My parents have had this tool for as long as I can remember. It's metal with a wooden handle that spins, and about 14 inches from handle to tip. Most likely from my great-grandmother, maybe dating back to late 1800s to early 1900s. What is it, and what is it for? It's an antique yarn winder from the early 1900s, missing the handle on the other side. The handles spin freely, just tie the yarn in the middle and reel it in. I have one that belonged to my grandparents. What kind of tool is this? About 80 centimeters or 30 inches long. It has no markings around it, with a wooden handle and a metal blade. I found it on the street, like a bulky trash. Any ideas? It's a beet lifter for harvesting sugar beets from the late 19th to the early 20th century. It's missing one bar on the left. You'd step on those bars sticking out to drive it into the ground, like a shovel. But first, you must jab the beet and twist it so the roots will break up. What is this tool I found in the bushes at the river? It's made of rusted metal with wooden handles and it's about 3 feet long. Any information is appreciated. It's a 19th century hay knife. It was patented on March 7, 1871 by George F. Weymouth of Dresden, Maine. Hay knives are needed as loose hay becomes compacted within a stack. To remove it, a hay knife is used to make a vertical cut so that sections can be removed easily as the intertwined stalks are cut. The offset handle allows the user to work down a face. This was just given to me. It seems to be made of a heavy metal, and it has a wooden handle and says China on the bottom. The only thing that comes to mind for me is a water ladle for a sauna, but I think it's too heavy for that purpose. Any ideas? It's a 19th century Chinese bronze silk iron. At the time, the bowl or pan of the flat iron would be filled with hot embers to create the heat within the bronze and allow to iron silk at the right temperature. The lower part of the flat iron is very thick and heavy, which allows radiating the heat homogeneously. Held by a wooden handle, it is then made to slide over clothing over and over again to remove and smoothen out creases. What is this weird tool I found in a flea market? Around 30 centimeters long, and the spring seems to travel a little but is stuck. The little blade is somewhat dull, and I think it's attached to the metal from the handle. And the casing is what moves on the spring. It's bound up pretty good. Does anyone know what this thing actually is? Please let us know down in the comments. Thanks for watching. Let's make life fun.